This summer, Simon Moro, Terry Hart, Knobs, an audio production podcast. Remember to like and subscribe.
Let's get into it.
Let's get into it.
What are we doing today?
Today, we're doing digital emulations of analog gear because we're big analog guys.
Yeah.
And we love the sound of
Medium-sized.
it. We're medium-sized analog guys.
But big analog guys in the mind.
Yes. The budget always constrains us a little bit. But of course, there's great digital emulations, but they're not all created equal. And you've been waiting for a long time to get on the UAD train,
Yeah.
and you've just done it. And how do you feel about it?
Well, I'll give you the background because I sort of had the journey of in and out of UAD,
Yeah.
but the recent coming to the using the plugins was for a different purpose to the previous times where I kind of abandoned the platform.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I guess a few things to clear up. For a long time, I was saying that the Shark DSP processing is just an incredibly expensive dongle
Yeah.
because we got to a point where computers were absolutely capable of running the software. When the UAD platform first came out, early 2000s, it was useful to have assisted DSP for plugins, especially.
Well, everything
reverbs.
looked to be going that way. There was the old
Yeah.
TDM systems. Everyone was trying to get
Yeah, there was
DSP.
the Creamware platform.
Yeah.
And there was a very strong case for DSP assistance because your TDM systems and your HD systems, you were looking at, with an interface with the converters, you were looking at around $10,000 a card, and then $6,000 to $10,000 for the interface. So you're looking at a
And then a
$20,000
nightmare of voice management from there on in.
Correct. So a couple of $1,000s for DSP assistance for good plugins.
Yeah.
I think it did have a place in the market. But then when computers got to the point where DSP is not an issue, and like as an example, I had an HDXL 6. So I had 6 cards, the core card, and I had 4 XL cards and a process card.
Still the most stable system
Still the most stable
of all
system.
time, right?
Yeah, and that was running in a Magma chassis. And I'd been hanging on to that system because of my the control surface I was using was in Pro Tools 10, and then there was just the compatibility issues. I was basically stuck on Pro Tools 10, and then a colleague said, "Well, since the operating systems went to 64-bit, you don't need the DSP power anymore." And this was $100,000 worth of DSP, right?
It's kind of disturbing, isn't it?
And I said, all right, I'll give it a go. I went to HD Native, and on the exact same Mac, the old cheese grater Macs, the Mac with its it was the top of the line one, but I had more power in processing on that Mac when I was purely native than when I had that DSP system.
Yeah.
And I just thought, okay, well, computers are powerful enough now.
And again, voices. You had way more voices.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So from that point, I was very much in the camp of, I think the DSP processing for UAD is an expensive dongle.
It is.
And then
It was weird to put all the eggs in that basket as if they, like R&D just never considered Moore's law.
Yeah.
It's like, no, computers won't get faster. This is the only way we're going to be able to do it.
Yeah, correct. And then I mean Moore's law has slowed down now, I think.
It has.
Yeah,
yes.
yeah. But to the point, it's like I was saying, I'm sure this can run on other CPUs, and then lo and behold, venture capitalists, we can get more people on board if we make it a subscription, and a lot of these plugins run natively now. So, what was my experience? I bought a quad or a duo. I think I bought a duo for the sole purpose of the lexicon and the EMT plate reverbs.
Yep.
Because I wasn't happy with my reverbs that I'd had, and I didn't have great hardware ones at the time. I'd heard that the 224 was ported directly, so I bought it. I thought it was great. Then after a while, I actually didn't love it.
Yeah.
I didn't love the reverbs anymore. and I ended up just selling the card. And
Well, you collected a fair bit of outboard reverb. It's not going to sit up next to that so well.
No, and then I kind of just abandoned the UAD, just sort of completely disregarded it. I bought some of their essential bundles are on sale for $50, and have rarely used it. Maybe the Tape Echo, like the Galaxy Echo, whatever the thing is. But I like, to be honest, I just hadn't considered them. And then Terry, you told me, just they've got this sale on, go and grab these other plugins.
Yeah.
And I bought the SSL channel and the 1176s and the Fairchild and basically these dynamics processors and that channel. And I put the SSL channel on a vocal in my template, and I swapped it out from the SSL native and another one I often use is the 9000J.
Yeah.
And immediately I thought this UAD SSL channel strip is incredible. For me, the difference was worth going, okay, what's going on here? And you and I talk about this often. When you're on analog, when we're on the SSL console in the other room, you can crank the top end. You can give it a 15 dB crank.
That's fine. And back in the day, you used to mix and bounce it from channel to channel, so you can get 30 dB.
Yeah,
it can take it.
Yeah. So that's what I felt like. That SSL channel by UAD, it really performed and sounded like analog to me. And I just find that a lot of plugins that, while they do have sounds, I feel as if the sounds are kind of with the attempt to create an illusion. So, for example, there's a distressor clone from Kive Audio, and it was part of the Plugin Alliance bundle. And I really like Plugin Alliance. I think it's a great, probably the best value subscription in terms of mixing tools.
Yeah, generally, yeah.
I love their plugins. And I listened to that because I didn't have a distressor plugin. And in my opinion, I could pretty much emulate that exact sound with the Avid Dyne 3 and lo-fi, because it just sounded like every other digital compressor with a bit of saturation. Whereas the UAD plugins, the ones that I was using, they sounded and responded in a more analog way to my ears, and I'm a big analog user. So Terry, why was that my experience?
Yeah, well, this is where there's a big difference between like impulse response or emulation and actual circuit level emulation. And as far as I know, that's the biggest difference between them. So, I mean, you used to do this with Kempler guitar profiles and things like this. You just literally look at the sound going in and the sound going out, and you measure the difference, and you attribute that difference to whatever sound goes in, and it approximates what happens. The big problem is that it doesn't really, like, what are you sending into it? You might send pink noise. You might send like a tone that goes up and down.
Just a sweep, isn't it?
Yeah, something like that. I think they do a bunch of everything, and also really short ones to see how, you know, the response envelope changes, the release envelope changes on it. And this is not music, and it's just approximating the idea. And it really comes down to the fact that we don't have a good way to measure dynamic signals. I'm talking on oscilloscopes, multimeter, you know, any piece of electronic gear. We can look at it in an instant, but we really can't look at it over time and in a bunch of situations in any way that actually properly approximates the unit. UAD, however, go to circuit level modeling. And this is something that engineers use all the time. If you're building a spaceship, you need to know exactly what that circuit's going to do in a range of different scenarios, heat levels, humidity levels, whatever. And they have every single component modeled. And I mean, exactly, every resistor, every capacitor you can think of. The only thing that aren't all that accurate are transformers, because the magnetic flux around them is so complicated that the slightest change, like a screw that's a tiny bit larger or it's been mounted slightly different, will completely and utterly change the response of the thing. So they're good but not great. But everything else is very, very accurately modeled. So technically, you could emulate these circuits to sound exactly the same. The problem is it's very complicated differential physics. Like basically it would take a month to render out a millisecond of audio. So that's not practical. I think as far as I know, UAD take this technology and peel away the things that aren't adding to the sonics. And some things that might, but they leave the most important parts in place, and the rest of it they might try to dumb down to some sort of algorithm which approximates the process. But it's not telling it, oh, this is what an 1176 sounds like after you send a ping through it. It doesn't tell it that. All it's doing is saying this is what the component does to voltage. And that's very, very different. Because you can listen to I think a lot of Waves stuff. I've never been much of a fan of their emulation plugins. Love their plugins, but when they try to emulate a bit of hardware unit, it's never quite there. That's just in and out. And like the DBX-160 is a perfect example. If you look at the Waves one of that, it's what you said. It sounds like it's got a thumpy attack and lo-fi on it. Compare that to the UAD one. Well, that's just got something else happening that's more than the sum of its parts.
Well, it sounded like our VU DBX-160s.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. So when companies like, say, Plugin Alliance talk about getting their console and they measure every channel, that's what they're doing, impulse responses.
I would imagine so.
Whereas SSL actually saying, well, let's rebuild the circuit digitally, strip it down so it can run.
Yeah.
To the point where it still sounds good. Because that's it. I just feel like some of it's like it's got the characteristics, but it's not behaving like it. And the difference between the Waves 160 and the UAD 160 is
it's huge.
It's night and day.
And I can already kind of see what they do. So some of the most complicated physics is the thermal stuff. Well, I think if I was modeling it, you sit in the studio all day, it heats up definitely, but it would hit a temperature. Right, get rid of all the thermal, modeling, pull that out of the equation because basically it's going to get to a level and just be okay.
Yeah.
And but then there might be one capacitor which is really touchy on that, and they go, okay, we'll put it back into that. I can kind of see where they come at it, but it's a difference, isn't it? I mean, to be honest, I've always used UAD, but I've only recently got into a bunch more since I moved back from Perth because my setup changed and I needed access to some more bits and pieces. I thought, there's some great deals at the moment. Jump into that. But was that the 160, the distressor? It really,
they're a lot more accurate, and yes, it's interesting because I didn't realize that the other companies were sort of doing that impulse response, but that sort of makes sense now when they say we've modeled 64 channels on this console. Yeah, they've literally just done the impulse response, and I mean. I know the impulse response can work well for dynamics because that's how the Focusrite liquid channels do it. And the liquid channel, I actually had the liquid channel HD plugins and they were very good. Like they actually sounded better than the stock standard plugins.
Yeah.
And they still sound fine. But so my understanding with impulse response, my introduction to impulse response was in the context of reverbs.
Yeah.
And it's effectively doing a sine sweep or a gunshot in an acoustic space, sampling that, and then they basically go down to one sample and they follow that sample from start to finish. And they say, what happened to that single sample in this space? Now apply that to every sample that comes through.
Exactly.
And that's effectively how
there'll be an EQ type portion of it. There'll be the how the envelope of it changes, the attack and release. obviously with reverb there'll be tails, so a complex range of delays. But yeah, exactly. They just follow it and see how it goes.
So it could very much be with a channel emulation that it's you get your impulse response, you look at the characteristics of the channel, but in terms of the let's say your compressor settings is all just completely algorithmic. It's basically saying, well, on the SSL, this is the timing range, this is sort of how it performs. It's all code to the numbers, whereas circuit modeling is actually disregarding all of that from a programmatic perspective and just saying we're putting this capacitor and then we're putting this capacitor, then we're putting this resistor, so it's actually
and how do they interact
and as far as the timing goes, like say on the release circuit, if it's stepped release, it's literally going from one capacitor to the next rather than saying 10 milliseconds, 15 milliseconds with this logarithmic curve.
Well, exactly.
Right?
And that's where, I reckon certain people outside of UAD would be using a bit of this technology and other people wouldn't. But I imagine there'd be a lot out there that are just literally delaying that impulse response by 10 milliseconds and that's it, which is just not the same thing. Because I mean, you're generally with a release circuit, you're draining voltage through a capacitor, and you use different resistors to change how quickly that happens. So there's literal different bits of circuitry. So it's not the same thing. Higher resistance is going to color the sound in a specific way. So it's taking that into account. It has to be a huge part of the sound, right?
Yeah. And then the other thing that I noticed, because I was so excited at this new channel strip, like, that sounds really good. This is going to make everything sound better. It's like when you discover the sound of aliasing, and you realize this fogginess can disappear, and you're like, wow, my system sounds way better now, but it's just using better plugins.
Because you're always self-deprecating, aren't you? You're sitting there going, oh, look, maybe I just can't get the mix there. Maybe I just don't have it in me. Then you realize that you've been doing something wrong with the wrong bit of software, and you're like, oh, okay.
Like there
not
it
me
is.
at all.
Exactly. So I got so excited, I thought the first thing I have to do now is update my mix template and put 32 channels of this on my 32 channel like virtual mixer in my template. And one thing with the UAD plugins is when they're instantiated, all of the modules are off.
Yeah.
So you have to go in and manually turn on the filters, turn on the compressor, turn on the EQ. And I thought, this is annoying. So after I did the first mix where I was just turning them on when I sort of on the channels that I needed it, and that mix went great. And then I updated the template, built the next song, and my CPU maxed out.
So you had everything on.
Yeah. So because what I did was I just changed my
default.
I just changed my default to a user preset that I'd saved with everything turned on. And I'm like, what the hell's going wrong? And then I learned, looking at the UAD documentation, that if you've got all the modules turned on, it actually uses up more chips on the
Well,
the
isn't that
processor.
interesting? Which means more mathematics because there's more components to model.
Yeah.
Which is hungrier.
Exactly.
Like it is sort of showing exactly what's going on there.
Yeah. And then full trip, I'm on eBay looking for Octo satellites. Going, well, I mean, I've got HDX2, like 2 HDX cards, but they're useless for native plugins.
Yeah.
And I would really like to run more instances of this because I think it will make a difference to my sound.
That's huge, isn't it?
Yeah. So
I mean, I love to use it for that reason. You can decide what's strong in the mix, the same way you do in an analog room.
Yeah.
You've got some fancy compressor where you save it for the important thing. I kind of manage my UAD plugins very much the same.
Yeah, exactly. So, I'm converted, and to my ears, certainly with the plugins that I was testing, I thought they were great. The reverbs, as I said, I didn't love them. They didn't blow my mind. I haven't. And that's the lexicon and the EMTs.
Yeah.
And on that note, I did a shootout with my real EMT 140 and the
It's
EMT
just not gonna
140,
happen.
which was the UAD one, and the Waves one. And the funny thing is that if you soloed them, I think I've mentioned this before. Like if I soloed them, I probably liked, to be honest, I actually kind of like the Waves 140,
Yeah.
then the UAD 140, then the real 140 in solo mode, because the real 140, it's mono, my one's mono, and it's noisy. And I basically,
Yeah.
because the motor's broken, I've just left it on the longest decay.
Yeah, right.
But in the mix,
It just
it
reads.
it wasn't like the real one was the winner by miles, even though it was the loser.
I have noticed
you know.
that with the gold foils as well, with all that
Yeah.
stuff, they do not sound that pretty on their own. But hell,
Yeah.
they take up all the space in the mix without taking up any space.
Yeah.
I don't know how it happens,
Yeah,
but they're magic. Yeah.
exactly. So I haven't gone through all of the UAD stuff, but I certainly felt that for $99, all of the compressors that I got in that channel strip, bargain.
And compressors is where I think it's at. I think
Yeah.
we can emulate EQs quite well by reading them at an instant, but not a dynamics processor. By its nature, it's a time-based thing.
Yeah.
So I just think they're miles ahead of anything else.
Yeah.
And I know that during your course, you've with students sat down with emulations of different things and said, "Can you hear the difference? Here's a FET, here's a VCA, here's a Varimu. Can you hear the difference?" Like, no, it's kind of the same thing.
Yeah.
I'd be interested to see if you hold that same experiment with these ones.
I should.
Yeah.
Yeah, I should add some UAD into the mix, so to speak. Because look, I definitely notice a difference with those.
Got any favourites aside from the SSL, obviously?
The 160,
Great, isn't it?
because I have a 160 on the high frequency on the neck of my bass.
Oh,
on
yeah,
my,
yep.
on my template, which was the Waves one, and I swapped that out. The Distresses are great. The 1176s are great too.
Yeah, they are, aren't they?
But I also like the Purple Audio 1176 from Plug-in Alliance.
Yeah,
I think
is great.
I think that sounds good too.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, so haven't had too much of a play with the others, but I am, humbly coming back to say, good work, UAD on the plugins.
Yeah, no, they did nail it. It's up and down, but yeah, a lot of those dynamics ones, and I love their pull tech. I don't think I'd survive without it.
Yep, the pull tech's good too. Yeah, and I guess back to that sort of fogginess. There's the Pug tech,
Yeah,
and it's like it's fine, but again, it's sort of like, well, you could kind of just do that with any plugin. And I think part of this, there are software companies that really innovate in the programming.
yeah,
But I think what a lot of people don't understand about code is that a lot of tools, whether they're websites or plugins, are built upon frameworks. And these frameworks often rely on tooling that is just replicated. So for example, to use the Juice framework, there's just built-in methods for equalization, for dynamics control, for gain. And you can so you're actually using the exact same kind of functions, but you might be telling it to perform in a different way. But it's like all of these plugins are using the same EQ, the same compression, the same reverb.
That's the thing about digital. You can literally turn it down this quickly for this long and release this quickly and not really think much more about it. And then, but we're doing a 1176, so we'll add a bit of distortion to the mix.
Exactly. So it's sort of like building it like that. And especially like a lot of independent, I'm jumping around here because I just saw that Lander released a new product. I think it was Lander, where for $1,000 you can drag and drop and make your own plugin and sell it.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Which is, it's an interesting, like the world of vibe coding.
Yeah,
So everyone and their dog is releasing plugins now. But this is the thing is that it's kind of like that if let's say you wanted to make a channel strip in code with one of these frameworks. You forget what the GUI looks like. You've made it look pretty and rusty and whatever.
Yeah.
But if you're using the same EQ everyone else has used, you've just set the bands and the limits and the ranges, but it's the same EQ as this other person. Like it's really no different from you just putting up the stock standard EQ7 followed by Dyne 3.
Exactly.
And it's a lot different from building a piece of gear. Like when you designed, because your federal inspired compressor is based on the same circuit, but you even added and modified it, and it's different from just saying, well, I'm going to change that number from 10 to 30.
Absolutely.
You're actually I'm going to try this capacitor. I don't like the sound of that. I'm going to put this other one in.
Oh, yeah. And approximating, because it's now a solid state power supply, which the old one had a tube rectifier in it, which is just these weird things. But if I felt like it needed more voltage to get to that sound, like I started with the tube rectifier, but trying to get back to that sound means I had to up the whole voltage of the unit. But I didn't sit there and do the maths for that. I was just literally poking around on a breadboard until I was getting the sound out of it I wanted. Yeah. And I feel like these guys that that do proper emulation of circuits would do the same thing.
Yeah,
because it's weird to look at. Like you were talking about the Pug Tech, Pull Tech. Well, you can, because I wonder why they sounded so different, and you can do the Waves Q clone to get an idea of what the envelopes look like, and they're identical.
Really,
but they don't sound identical. There's a lot more to it than that nice pretty line that's on a spectrum analyzer.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah. So there are other great plugins, but I feel like in the digital space, when you're looking for those plugins with character, I guess it's that thing of you kind of don't want to get sucked into buying everything. And I have a ton of plugins. And look, I've been sucked into buying certain things.
Yeah. We all have.
Yeah.
Of course.
But I think it's just to be maybe aware when looking for those plugins to purchase, looking into the development, like how was it made? How is it different?
Yeah. Because
there's no point spending all your money on basically 12 of the same thing that just look a little bit different, but basically sound the same. So I think UAD's done a great job with the analog modeling. And the other side is where we're not looking for that emulation and we're looking for other things. Like I know you're not particularly a fan of this kind of thing, but I like the dynamic sidechain.
Definitely gets used over in my camp.
I guess I mean like Trackspacer, where it's actually taking the side chain and doing the inverse equalization curve automatically. I think that stuff's really clever. Yeah. And to be honest, I don't care if it's using a generic, I'm sure it's not, but I don't care if that was using a framework's EQ to do it, because it's doing something very specific, which is...
And unique with it.
And I don't need color. That's fine. Those resonance suppression tools, that's kind of fine. Like I'm not looking for circuit modeling there. It does a particular
You
thing.
approach it like analog gear, because you didn't sit there in old analog studios and reach for an 1176 when you wanted the top end to remain intact.
True.
All those bits of gear had massive shortcomings, but the fun was understanding them and using them to your advantage.
Yeah.
So if you love the sound, don't touch them. Yeah.
Yeah.
But if you need to reinvent it a bit, then they're just perfect for that. They're going to do it in a unique way.
Exactly. So what's the moral of this story?
A big moral of the story is being patient, because now it's native.
Yeah.
But technically they can model this exactly. So if we get into quantum computers and really, really fast things, there might be a day where you're going to have a lot of very expensive doorstops. That would never happen. That would never happen.
I need to find this is what there needs to be. There needs to be someone needs to start a YouTube channel where it's basically the stock market for audio gear.
Yeah.
So that I can try and time the market so that I can sell all of my analog gear just before it crashes.
Exactly.
And this technology comes out.
I thought it was going down, but no, it seems to be strong.
Well, some of it's still going up.
Yeah.
But back to, I guess today we released the first podcast to the public, even though it was recorded months ago, and the subject was analog versus digital, but it's not what you think. And we were talking about the workflow.
Yeah.
And the thing is that the console, which we both use, are digital control surfaces, so it's not passing audio, but it gives us the workflow.
Yeah.
And I love my racks of audio gear, but if I had a computer that could give me the same sound as quickly as that, which would also mean I just need to have 2 of those computers and I've got complete redundancy. Like give me that and a digital console that controls it all.
Yeah.
I would happily sell the analog gear.
After spending a day behind a patch bay doing soldering, I'm definitely with you there.
Yeah. So let's sit tight and wait for real-time analog circuit modeling.
Absolutely. I'm ready.
Remember to like and subscribe.